WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar, Monrovia and Banjul, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. This is Newslink. Here are the top stories. Wagner's withdrawal from Mali sparks mixed reactions from the population. Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission records over 270,000 complaints in May alone.
These individuals endure inadequate shelter, limited access to healthcare, and a lack of basic amenities. Their rights to safety, dignity, and livelihood are systematically violated.
Gambia's Petroleum Ministry dismisses ex-President Jammeh's world claims as false and misleading. Monrovia City Court begins hearing of a case against the 4 lawmakers accused of an arson attack on Liberia's legislature.
Just a waste of our time. It's something that we need to talk about. You can't bring a police officer who goes to the Bible for 7 different times testifying lies, saying that I am charged because I was sitting in a car. According to him, I heard conversation. I didn't report it.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
We are glad you could join us for this broadcast. We begin in Mali, where Wadr announced its departure from the country last week after nearly 3 years of fighting terrorism, a decision that has ignited debate and mixed reactions. While the Malian government has never officially acknowledged Wagner's presence on its territory, the group claims to have neutralized hundreds of terrorists. The transitional authority referred to them as Russian instructors. In the center of the country, where the security situation remains volatile, the withdrawal of Russian mercenaries is worrisome. Christopher Teacher has the details.
In the Malian capital, the announcement of the Wagner Group's withdrawal elicited no official reaction from the transitional authorities. The latter has never acknowledged the paramilitary group's presence on Malian soil, referring to use the term Russian instructors. Among the population, Wagner's presence remains a taboo subject. While some people do not wish to speak out on the issue at all, others do so anonymously out of fear. The Russian presence has significantly improved the country's security situation, even though much remains to be done, a young Bamako resident told WADR. In the central regions of the country, the epicenter of armed terrorist groups, the deployment of the Wagner groups has been quite beneficial. Their arrival has truly changed the situation in the fight against terrorism, commented a resident of the central region with whom we spoke. Only the name will change, but the fighters remain, continued our interviewee, who did not wish to be recorded. Elsewhere, pessimism prevails. For another resident of central Mali, the withdrawal of the paramilitary group will leave a vacuum, believing that the army alone would not be able to defeat terrorism. Even though Wagner's intervention led to the takeover of Kidal in November 2023, security has since returned a large part to the national territory. The recent attacks by JNIM, a group supporting Islam and Muslims, are concrete examples. After more than 3 years in Mali, the Wagner groups is withdrawing, making way for Africa Corps, another Russian paramilitary organization controlled by the Kremlin.
A report by WADR Aliyu Cham in Bamako, voiced by Christopher Teacher. We leave Mali for Nigeria, where the National Human Rights Commission on Tuesday released its monthly report, which paints a grim picture of displacement, violence, and neglect. The document showed a link between the growing humanitarian crisis in the country as a nation grappling with the surge in reported human rights violations. Insecurity in the northern part of Nigeria remains the primary driver. From Abuja, WADR's Yechenu Sasetu reports.
The National Human Rights Commission says 275,256 complaints of human rights violations were documented across Nigeria in May alone. The drivers include brutal attacks in the northeast, a surge in sexual violence, and mass displacement caused by natural disasters. Here's Executive Secretary of the Commission, Tony Ojukwu, presenting the NHRC's monthly dashboard report in Abuja.
Our collaboration with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees has highlighted the dire conditions faced by IDPs in many parts of the country. These individuals endure inadequate shelter, limited access to health care, and a lack of basic amenities. Their rights to safety, dignity, and livelihood are systematically violated.
Ojukwu warned that the worsening humanitarian situation is stretching Nigeria's already fragile response systems, especially as displaced communities continue to face harsh living conditions. He therefore called for a coordinated response strategy.
And the dashboards on human rights and internal displacements require support by government and development partners with civil society to use these dashboards to hold government to account on their obligations to promote, protect, and fulfill all human rights of every Nigerian and every person living in Nigeria.
Despite the overwhelming number of human rights complaints, the Rights Commission says it is taking steps toward justice and accountability. To ensure accountability, the Commission summoned officials of the Nigerian Police Force in 37 cases and issued formal letters demanding responses. For WADR, Yechinu Sasetu in Abuja.
The Gambia's Ministry of Petroleum has denied recent claims made by former President Yahya Jammeh accusing the government of colluding with Senegal to illegally siphon off the Gambia's oil resources. In a statement released on Tuesday, the ministry clarified that the country has not yet discovered oil or gas in commercially viable quantities, although multiple exploration efforts have taken place both onshore and offshore. Officials say there's been no conclusive evidence of significant reserves. The ministry emphasizes that Senegal, which nearly surrounds the Gambia except for its Atlantic coastline, has been actively engaged in oil and gas exploration for years. According to the statement, Senegal has conducted 49 explorations and has recently started stepping into its offshore energy reserves. In contrast, the Gambian government remains at a much earlier exploratory stage with far fewer tests conducted over several decades. The ministry urged the public to remain cautious of what it describes as misleading and inflammatory claims about the country's natural resources. Officials warned that such rhetoric could create unnecessary fear and confusion. Jammeh, who had lived in exile in Equatorial Guinea since losing the 2016 presidential election, claimed without presenting evidence that the Gambia holds one of the largest gas reserves in the world, comparable to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. He accused the current administration, led by President Adama Barrow, of secretly working with Senegal to exploit offshore resources allegedly belonging to the Gambia. Meanwhile, President Adama Barrow on Tuesday launched the Gambia Madrasa Integration Strategy, a national initiative aimed at fully integrating madrasa or Quranic education into the country's development agenda. The new strategy is designed to give madrasa graduates equal access to higher education and professional opportunities, bridging long-standing gaps in the nation's educational system. Sankule Janko has more in this report.
The Barrow administration launched the landmark initiative at the Sadao Dakar International Conference Hall in Banjul on Tuesday. Known as the Gambia Madrasa Integration Strategy, the program aims to give madrasa graduates equal access to higher education and diverse professional opportunities. President Adama Barrow, speaking at the launch attended by government officials, educationists, civil society and NGOs emphasized the urgency of addressing long-standing disparities.
Such barriers have inhibited the potential of a significant portion of our youth, many of whom come from economically and socially marginalized communities. We should endeavor to break down such discriminatory barriers.
The strategy is aligned with both national and global frameworks, including the National Development Plan, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. It introduces reforms in curriculum, vocational training, STEM, and language education, aiming to equip madrasa students with the tools to thrive in a modern economy. Imam Usman Jah, on behalf of the Secretariat of Islamic and Arabic Education, welcomed the move.
There are over 700 Quranic memorization centers in the Gambia, with more than 25,000 students living in boarding schools. These centers also need support. We are very happy to note that the multi-sector working group on modernizing and integrating Quranic memorization centers is operating under the office of the President.
The Gambian presidency praised stakeholders, including the Ministry of Higher Education and the World Bank, for making this strategy a reality.
Sankule Janko fight, that's a report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
As the strike by nurses and midwives in Ghana enters another phase, the Minister of Health has appealed to retired nurses and midwives to temporarily return to service. The objective is to ease the impact of the ongoing strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Speaking at the press briefing at the presidency on Tuesday, Kwabena Minta-Akanda reaffirmed the government's commitment to continuing engagement with the striking nurses to reach a mutually beneficial resolution in the public interest. WADR's Nadia Tete Nakra reports.
Across public hospitals in Ghana, patients continue to be stranded as a strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association enters another critical phase. The association insists it will not return to work until the implementation of its conditions of service signed under the previous administration. However, just 5 months old, the new administration says implementing the agreement would destabilize the economy. Health Minister Kwabena Minta-Akanda explains.
We wish to draw attention to the fact that the conditions of service under reference are not captured in the 2025 budget and will completely throw the economy off gear if implemented immediately in the manner it currently exists. We are mindful of the serious economic consequences of unbudgeted expenditure and want to avoid the economic slippages that led to the hardship in the recent past.
While acknowledging the severe impacts of the strike on healthcare delivery, the minister assured that efforts are underway to resolve the impasse.
Government commits to continue to engage with the nurses in order to achieve a mutually acceptable outcome in the interest of the public. Given the urgency of the situation and suffering of the patients, government appeal to public-spirited retired nurses and midwives to volunteer their services for a brief period pending the resolution of the impasse.
But the GRNMA has pushed back. Its public relations officer, Joseph Krampa, blames the government for lack of transparency, particularly on the matter of funding from the beginning. In a related development, a High Court in Accra has granted the National Labour Commission permission to serve the striking nurses and midwives with an injunction through alternative means, including WhatsApp, to return to work after claims by the union that they had not been officially served. For WADR, Nadia Tete, Accra.
Elsewhere in Liberia, a preliminary hearing into the case involving 4 high-profile lawmakers in connection with an alleged arson attack on the National Assembly commenced on Tuesday. The initial section at the Monrovia City Court aimed to evaluate the credibility of the evidence presented by the prosecution just a day after the lawmakers were granted bail. WADR's Ibrahim Paco in Monrovia reports.
During the hearing, Liberia National Police criminal investigator Inspector Peter Johnson testified as the first prosecution witness, linking each defendant to definite roles in the alleged arson plot. The main suspect, Representative Fonati Kofa, was identified as a major sponsor of the arson, while a federal lawmaker, Desin Sibo, planned the attack and allegedly facilitated the escape of two individuals linked to the incident. Representative Jacob Debbie, who Johnson said was aware of the entire arrangement, was charged with criminal facilitation. The police criminal investigator also pointed out that Representative Abu Kamara's vehicles were used to orchestrate the attack. In response, Kofa dismissed the allegations, promising to dismantle what he terms as lies and misleading accounts from law enforcement.
We have identified a series of them. We understand where the case is going. There's nothing there. It's a mockery of justice. When you have a mindset, you try to develop anything to that mindset. So you go in with a preliminary mindset that you got to be co-fast.
Similarly, Jacob Debbie condemned the arrest, calling it a waste of time.
Just a waste of our time. It's something that we need to talk about. You can't bring a police officer who goes to the Bible for 7 different times, testifying lies, saying that I am charged because I was sitting in a car. According to him, I heard conversation. I didn't report it.
Priscilla Cooper, Mosorado County District 5 representative, also charged in the case, is expected to file for a separate trial. The hearing continues today, Wednesday, with a further cross-examination of witnesses by the defense. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are still listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Wagner's withdrawal from Mali sparks mixed reactions from the population. Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission records over 270,000 complaints in May alone. Gambia's Petroleum Ministry dismisses ex-President Jammeh's oil claims as false and misleading. Still ahead in the news, in Cote d'Ivoire, Kone Kamagete Suleiman, better known as Soul to Soul, sentenced to 5 years in prison by the Abidjan Court of First Instance. We also have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We're streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English service. In Cote d'Ivoire now, Kone Kamagete Suleiman, better known by his nickname Soul to Soul, was sentenced to 5 years in prison by the Abidjan Court of First Instance on Tuesday. The vice president of the Generations and Peoples in Solidarity movement, funded by former National Assembly President Guillaume Soro, was charged with several offenses, including money laundering. Abdullahi Hassan completes the story.
After a long and tumultuous trial marked by multiple postponements and twists and turns, the verdict was finally delivered on Tuesday. Kone Kamagate was found guilty of receiving stolen public funds, embezzlement, and money laundering. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, slapped with a 5 million CFA francs fine, and 5 years of deprivation of his civil and political rights. However, this sentence was not accompanied by a committal order which allowed him to return home after the hearing, according to sources close to the GPS movement. His defense team, led by Khadija Toure, reacted strongly to this conviction, describing the ruling as a serious breach of a fair trial. The charges against Soul to Soul, Guillaume Soro's former director of protocol, are allegedly linked to the acquisition in 2008 of a residence located in Makori while his principal was Prime Minister. The sum involved is estimated to be 1.5 billion CFA francs. This latest judicial episode has rekindled persistent tensions surrounding the GPS movement in a socio-political context marked by preparations for the October presidential election in Cote d'Ivoire.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting there.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's rejoin Sankule Janko this time for a review of the local dailies in the Gambia.
Thank you, and these are the major headlines on Gambian dailies. Authorities sue Mbemba Dramé for 900k for bail bond and damages. Gambia denies oil theft allegations. Recently, former President Yahya Jammeh alleged that Senegal is stealing Gambia's oil along the Sangomar border between the Gambia and Senegal. But the government has come out to say this is false. Court orders government spokesperson, security officials to appear in PIU shooting trial. That's also another headline on the Standard newspaper. Barrow launches strategy to bridge madrasa secular education. And this other one read, Dr. Cisse says Barrow will contest and win in 2026. Dr. Cisse is the Minister of Information. Let's head to the Point newspaper, and the lead story on the Point newspaper reads, Court orders appearance of 3 top government officials in PIU shooting trial. Again, Petroleum Ministry rubbishes oil discovery claims following statements by former President Jammeh. Shoot to kill order, criminals without regret, according to the Chief of Defense Staff, Momar O. Cham. This other one reads, Court strikes out drug case against Chief Magistrate Pa Modu Njai. Still with the Point newspaper, new land policy to end grabbing, empower legitimate owners. Let's take a look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Fourier newspaper. And similar to the Point's lead story, this other one also reads on the Fourier newspaper, National Security Advisor and 2 others to face questions in police shooting trial. That's the lead story on the Fourier newspaper. Embassy issues urgent warning to Gambians amid U.S. immigration crackdown. Magistrate Court strikes out drug case against former Chief Magistrate Pa Modunjai, and President Barrow launches Gambia's madrasa integration strategy. These are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies.
Thank you, Sankule Janko, for the press review from the Gambia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of Newslink takes us back to Ghana, where the strike by nurses and midwives enters another phase as the Minister of Health has appealed to retired nurses and midwives to temporarily return to service. Minister Kwabena Minta Akanda reaffirms the government's commitment to continued engagement with the striking nurses to reach a mutually beneficial resolution in the public interest. However, Jefferson Asari Dankwa, Greater Accra Regional Chairman for the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, reacts to the minister's appeal.
We think that is a very serious disrespect for the retired nurses and also a disrespect for nurses and midwives in Ghana. I will want to ask the minister that does he even have the database of these retired nurses? And even if he has, how better do the country take care of them? It's quite worse than we in the active service. So if you cannot fulfill our plight or even seek to our needs, how much more the retired nurses who is over 60 years, 70 years, requesting them to come and do the orthopedic surgeries that they will need to stand for 6-7 hours, requesting them to come and take care of the clients or the patient in the high dependency units that need critical monitoring. This really tells us that the minister actually do not know what he's saying. Neither does he know the actual component, what goes into the nursing and midwifery care in Ghana. It is very unfortunate.
What are the core issues driving the strike, and what specific outcomes is the association seeking from negotiations with the government?
We are not asking for luxury. we are only asking for livelihood. We are saying that some of our members are working at hard-to-reach areas, deprived communities, and very difficult areas where they will need to cross rivers, go through forests and very thick forests actually to care for Ghanaians. So the government should give them 5% of their basic salary, not to every Ghanaian nurse or every Ghanaian midwife. We are only saying that only those are the villages. Give them 5%. We are saying that we have researchers who need to improve our training and our practice. So in the case of resection, give them 10% of their basic salary or wages. This is not to every nurse. We are saying that we provide medical care to government workers that government pay for. So as nurses and midwives, where we work in our facilities, when we are not feeling well, government should take care of us. Is it difficult to ask government? The midwife will deliver between 500 to 800 babies in a year in Ghana. The same midwife will go to the same facilities in which he works, and he will need to pay for even paracetamol. When he delivers, that same midwife will need to pay for it. And this, we are saying that it is unfair to us, it is injustice, and the government will need to provide that same care, medical care he provides to other professionals to us. This is what we are asking for.
Finally, before I let you go, given the government's stated commitment to dialogue, what conditions would prompt the GRNMA to suspend or end the strike in the interest of public health?
We need the commitment of government, the position and the stringent position of government that I do not have budget for you only tells us that there is mistrust. We do not trust government because our initial negotiations with the Minister of Health, Minister Honorable Kwabena Minta Akando, told us that they were going to factor us in our previous budget, that is March 2025. It was explicit from the minister that we should wait, and therefore they are going to cater for our needs in the budget. And now, yesterday, we were told by government communication that there is no budget for us. This is a break of trust. And we will only return to work when government commits some funds to us as essential workers that we presume to be. The essential workers shouldn't be lip service. Government should work towards providing livelihood for people that he claims are essential workers. This is what will make us return to work.
Jefferson Asare Dankwa is the chairman for the Greater Accra Regional Section of Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. In the world of sports, Senegal made history on Tuesday by becoming the first African team to defeat England, winning 3-1 in a friendly at the City Ground. Goals from Ismail Assal, Habib Jara and Sheikh Sabal sealed the victory, handing England their first loss on a new manager Thomas Tuchel. A late equalizer from Jules Bellingham was ruled out for handball, and Bukayo Saka was denied by a last-minute save from Edouard Mendy. Senegal dominated with 9 shots on target and extended their unbeaten run to 24 games. Youngster Sabali's stoppage time goal put the result beyond doubt, and tensions flared after Argentina's 1-1 draw with Colombia in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers as Lionel Messi confronted James Rodriguez over past comments. Messi accused James of saying Argentina were helped during their 2024 Copa America win, saying, "You talk a lot." A surprise James denied making such a claims. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umundayogo for the technical assistance. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is 50-50, WADR's flagship gender program with Nadede Tete. And by 1 p.m., Demba Amaan will be here with the news in French, which is Info Chevu. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia,